9/11, I was in San Diego, believe it or not, living where my wife was born. And I am an early riser and just happened to have the news on, and that's where we watched it. And the frustration was being away from my close family. My father's John Romita. I'm actually John Romita Jr. He's not John Romita Sr. He's the John Romita. My father's been a cartoonist since 1950s, and he did Spider-Man back in the middle 60s to the middle 70s. And I remember being on the phone, literally on the phone with him when the towers fell. When the first tower fell. And I never heard my father sound like a child before, but he actually sounded like a teenager in anger and frustration. When I told him I was doing a Spider-Man issue that was based on that event, he said, no, that's insane. You can't do that. I said, no, I know. I don't want to do it either. He said, tell him you don't want to do it. And I said, I can't tell him that. I got to do it. And I don't remember why I was standing on that. But once the script came in, I didn't read it to him. I think I faxed it to him. And we discussed it. And he said, this is pretty damn good. He said, all right, get it done, do it. But he wasn't thinking about the story and the results from the story. He was thinking about me. That's my father for you. The first thing he thought of was, don't let it affect you. Don't let it kill you. Spider-Man 36 was a strange thought process in my mind. I would never have imagined doing a comic book that was in reaction to something as awful as 9/11. Marvel was more adamant about doing it in, not honor of, but in reaction to. And the writer, Joe Straczynski, was adamant about it. For it to be done so soon after it happened, I think within 6 weeks of the attacks, I was working on it. And I think that I was terrified that it was going to be looked on as a way of capitalizing on it. Comics is good for young people to learn to read. There's nothing wrong with young people learning politics or the politics of what's going on. And this was a world-dominated news story. So where I was looking at it as people looking down their noses at comics to begin with, that we were capitalizing on such an awful day. People much smarter than me, the editors, and my wife included, said, no, it's got to be done. It's important. Spider-Man is playing the part of the reader, where he's wandering aimlessly around Manhattan in total frustration that he, as a superhero, couldn't do anything about it. As early as the late 70s, the early 80s, when I first began doing Spider-Man, I was putting the towers in. They were simple to do. And I think that was an attraction for some of the artists. It was less about the cornices and the intricacies of the building. It was a very simple design. So a lot of artists were leaning on that. Whenever I do some work, over 35 years, there's always something about an individual image that brings back a memory from something else. If there's somebody in the room with me and I'm working on a shot, I'm on the phone with somebody, it brings back a specific memory. Nothing in that story, the 9/11 story, brings back any memory of anything connected to it. I don't remember doing it. It became a blur. Two of my friends, one is a fireman who lost 40 members of his firehouse, and one is was a garbage man, my buddy, who went down to the site to clean up. And when I spoke to them both, they didn't really have a negative reaction as much as it was almost a shock. Wow, can't believe you guys are going to do something about that. When they looked at it afterwards, they said, wow, this is pretty amazing. So that's the kind of reaction you got from most people, even people that weren't involved.